Wow. Okay. So welcome to our first Inside the Artist Studio. So I call this making lemonade out of lemons. We, here we are in COVID and we can't have an in-person show. But the cool thing about it is we can bring you who are out there listening and wanting to meet these artists. We can take you virtually inside their studio. And that's something we've really never been able to do before with the Coors show. So actually, I'm really kind of excited about it. I've been into a lot of studios, but I've definitely not been into everybody's studio. So I'm as excited about this as I think a lot of people tuning in are going to be. So today we have Patti Stajcar, who is in Golden, Colorado. We have Michael Blessing, who's up in Montana, and we have Ouida, who's on the western slope, Ouida Touchon, who's on the western slope of Colorado. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to kick it off with Patti because Patti is our sculptor and she often works quite large. So if you've ever met Patti, you know that she's not a large person, but somehow she wields chainsaws and hammers and chisels and she loves to work big. So Patti, thank you so much for being here and for being outside on this beautiful nippy day in Colorado.
With our day here.
So you have of the work you're putting in the show, 3 are quite large monumental pieces. So I really wanted to start with you to look at these works. So would you mind taking us to them? And they're all bronze, right?
These are all bronze. I thought maybe I'd show you small to large. We have Greetings here, which is a Bernese mountain dog, and life size. It's actually Ned Aldridge's dog.
Really?
Yeah, I used him as the model. And then
so Ned Aldridge, for those of you who don't know, is a really terrific wildlife painter. He's just quite well known, and he lives up there near you, right?
He's my neighbor. He's just a couple doors down, and I was very happy to be able to babysit while he's and
oops, we're just losing you, Patti.
The second one here is
Patti. Hey, we just lost you a second. You babysat.
Am I still here?
Dog? Now you are.
Yeah.
You said you were very happy to babysit his dog.
I could babysit his dog Phalo and use him as a model. So
perfect.
The next piece that I have here is Temujin, and Temujin is bald eagle. I had to check the head. Temujin is a bald eagle. It stands a little over 10 foot tall. And then we have triangulations. Triangulations is a cat, and it's done in triangular shapes. I'm going to have to go inside now because some dogs are visiting me from the neighbors. So I'll cut out here and go inside.
Okay, Patti, so I'm going to move on to Michael Blessing, and we will get back to you later on in the show.
Perfect.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah.
Welcome from Montana. So, Michael, you've been in the show for a number of years. I remember when I first started seeing your work and then reached out to you, I just kept thinking, is this guy actually creating neon painting, like neon signs, where do you plug them in? You do such incredible work with your paint and your imagery, and so I loved that because I don't have anybody else in the show doing it. I don't know anybody else who does this work like you do. But the second thing that I love about it is you are looking at these old iconic characters of the West, of films, of lore, of all these kinds of things, and you're kind of melding this fiction with your artwork in the painting. So would you talk to us about some of these pieces that you have this year? And then I really want to talk to you about that neon. Let's make sure we get back to the actual neon thing, okay?
Sure. Thanks, Rose. I I skip in and out. I'm a little schizophrenic with what I decide to paint and how I decide to paint it. And I have done a lot of neon signs. That's how I kind of started getting on the neon. And prior to that, I was a figure painter. And so doing 2 years of nothing but neon signs got me to just be having a hanker for painting some people. So I thought I would start putting some neon as a compositional element to some old movie characters, a spaghetti western genre, which is where I grew up as a little kid and watched a lot of westerns and all. So anyway, I started doing that about 5 years ago and developed a body of work there, and people have really responded well to it. So I'm doing a lot of that. I did find myself often sitting at the easel while I was striping neon colors on these guys, thinking, I wonder what it'd be to actually have light on them. So that is the next iteration that I'm developing at the moment, and it's still rather new. Still exploring that way, but for this show, I don't have any of those kinds of pieces right now, just due to COVID and some things. It was a little prohibitive for that body of work, but I do have these pieces here that will be in the show. And
So let's talk about those. And people always, when they come into the Coors show, they always ask me, who's that? I can't remember who that actor is or who, so just tell us now. So would you take us through the works?
Sure. The big piece behind here is not completed yet. I'll have that done very soon, but it is of an image, a historic image from the Library of Congress that I just found fascinating. It's a guy out in his field with his horse, and I swapped out a background for by a barn or something like that. So kind of made up my own southwest looking place. It's a little surrealistic. But it's behind there. That's not accurate to the place. But he was a character there. So I got that going on. And who I have over here is, I'll move the computer a little bit.
Oh, great. Good.
3 pieces of Buck Jones. Back in the day, he was a contemporary of John Wayne, but he was older. They did do some movies together, but he was older and he had his time in the sun, but it was early on in film. And then there was Gary Cooper, and he was kind of at the same time frame as well. He had a longer career than Buck did. I found these portraits really compelling for me. And a lot of them that I found, they're smoking cigarettes. And
They were smoking?
They are in the reference. So it's like, hey, this is accurate to what people were doing back then, and I just left the cigarettes in. Okay, we got Buck Jones here. He's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
don't mind the cigarettes. They're kind of part of the period. And there he is again. And again. And then this is Gary Cooper. I hope you can see it. Yeah.
How do you select the work that you want to paint and the images and the?
Well, I go through archived. I like black and whites, because then I could make the color up myself.
Yeah.
So stuff out of the 30s and even 60s. And if I find particularly the movie guys, if I find an image I like that's in the 60s and 70s era and they're colored, I'll just immediately put them in black and white. And start from there because I want to do my own color thing. But what compels me is the stories that were told by these people through the movies and the movie characters. And then the historic ones, it's either a character that had a prominent position in history for whatever reason. So the story will compel me, but it's also the image that was captured by the reference, by the photographer at the time. Not all those photographs are great. Some are, some are not. And I'll just go through them and see which ones grab me, I guess. And it just says, yeah, I'd like to put this in.
Where did this idea come from to create these paintings like this of these older characters? I mean, they are compelling, but where did the idea come from? And then you are bringing them into this sort of, I was going to say contemporary, but it's almost like a postmodern kind of technique that you're using. Tell me about that. How did that all come together for you?
Let's see. There wasn't a whole lot of intellectual thought about it, I don't think. I kind of go with my gut, whatever my gut's telling me.
Yeah.
I do like color. At times early on, and when I started painting, I thought, well, you know, this is too much color. I should probably back off. And so the use of color has just been kept coming up and coming up, and I've tried to gray things down and do monochromes and fine, and that's all good. The color just putting in there. Now with the neon, it's like, okay, you either embrace this or don't do it. So, and I just love color. So the color with a particular image, whoever the character is, it just kind of, I go with my gut. So that's that part of it. I don't try to overthink it a whole lot. I love how a lot of artists paint in our world today and in the past. But what I think I'm drawn to is to not grab too many things from too many people from what I'm seeing. I want to let my gut just go with it. And I've failed many times, and so I get more successes than I used to these days. But I haven't thought about it a whole lot to answer your.
Yeah, it just sort of is a natural. Yeah, it's your natural language with the painting, it seems. You know, and there's some great comments coming in, just love the genre. So from some of the people who are watching live. And then I'm gonna head over to Ouida, but I want to ask you one more thing, and I want to just chat about this. So for the people who are familiar and come to the Coors show, remember Michael had a piece that had actual neon in it, which is something he's been experimenting with and playing with. Are you about to plug one in for us? So I don't know if you guys know this, but some of our artists are just total geeks about technology, and Michael's one of those. So had been experimenting with actual neon. So he created an actual neon painting, and now he's found this new technology. The neon is incredibly sensitive, so and it was super heavy. It was just very hard to move. But now, tell us what you're working with here.
Lightsabers. It's kind of what they really look like. Now what you're seeing on the screen is a little blown out. Well, it's a lot blown out, but kind of just to get a gist of colors. This material is acrylic. It's LED light that's encased in acrylic. It's incredibly durable. You can touch it, it doesn't get hot, it won't break like glass. So those challenges with actual neon were something that I just wanted to kind of find a different way. And this technology really presented itself well for it. So it comes in many, many colors, and I have samples here of about 40 colors. So when I'm working on a piece, I can test one of these out up against it and see how the colors behind react to a given magenta or a lime or whatever color. So these are really handy tools, but this is basically the technology, and how I make these is on an aluminum substrate, and I get my sizes worked out in Photoshop because this stuff has to be incredibly accurate before I order it. I don't make it myself. So I get my composition worked out, get my colors worked out, send an EPS file to the manufacturer. They make it for me, and then 8 weeks later it comes, and then I assemble a mixed media piece. At that point, it's an oil painting with these lighting effects on top. So yeah, that's kind of the
Wonderful.
short version of this. So.
Nice. So in the future, when we can all get back together again safely, we're hoping that we'll have another one of those for the show in person. But it's definitely something that, you know, when we were talking about it, you have to be there to see it, which is the whole thing with art, right? So we're hoping these talks will kind of help with that. So, Michael, thank you. Ouida.
Yeah. Hi.
Ouida Touchon is new to the show this year. And actually, you are friends with a longtime Coors show artist and dear friend of mine, Leon Lockridge, who is a master printmaker. And he couldn't just say enough nice things about you and your work. Yeah, so let's dive in and okay, talk about geeking out on process. Printmaking is one of those areas too. So
yes.
Right. So let's talk about the work that's coming to the show.
Okay.
And I want to talk to you about inspiration, and then let's talk a little bit about technique, because there are a lot of printmaking terms that float around out there, and I think it would be fun. Let's just like kind of do a little bit of the terminology and what you're doing, and
tutorial.
Well, tiny. Tiny.
Yeah. No.
So
tiny tutorial. Okay, teeny weeny. Well, mostly I think the tutorial has to do with actually talking about the work, because you start putting pieces together. Leon is my dear friend, and we work together at Art Gym in Denver. I have since moved over the mountains, and I now live in Delta, Colorado. And my studio is in the back of the house. I bought a little house, and in the back of the house is a carriage house. And I've restored it and now set up my studio here. So this is where all the action is. This is where I spend my time. My focus is on strong women, and then what I imagine strong women would wear. So I feel like the garment is a metaphor. And so I do a lot of garment shapes, and most of them are fantasy garments. So as far as technique goes, this is woodcut print, or sometimes linoleum print, but mostly the ones I'm showing for this event are woodcut reduction prints. I print them on paper, and this beautiful archival paper is Japanese. And this is an edition of, I believe it's 9, let's see, I gotta look at the signature, no, 7. For example, this is a fantasy garment called Cow Cow Boogie. And this is based on an old song called Cow Cow Boogie. And it's an old Western swing song. And so rather than it being a character, a male character in the song, I decided it was a cowgirl. And so this whole song is about, and the text around the image is the lyrics from the song. She has treble clefs on her sleeves. She has piano keys on her cuffs. And then in the song, it talks about he was raised on local weed, which we all know what that is. It's not pot, it's actually gypsum weed. And so in the body of the bodice of the shirt, if you look closely, you'll see, and actually your postings on the site will show that also, this is moonflower, which is also what they call gypsum weed. So this is an edition of 7. They're printed on paper. They're done with layer after layer after layer of ink. You lay out the design on the paper, then you ink, and then you carve away. So as you're printing the edition, you're doing all 7 pieces at the same time. And as you're moving from color to color, you're actually carving away. So you end up with a totally destroyed block at the end. It's worthless. But you end up with an image of many colors. So in this case, this went through the press 17 times to get this final image.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you how many colors? 17.
How many colors, exactly. So to get that, you work from light to dark. And so the final pass would have been the black detail.
So this too, I think, is something you didn't do. Like, you have to print more than 7 pieces to get 7, right?
Yes.
How many do you start with?
I usually start with 9 to 10, and I always figure there's going to be one for the gods, because I'll screw one up. So we call that an offering, and then I'll have one that I use for testing, so that I'll run a color and see if I like it. So that ends up being the artist proof, maybe 2 artist proofs. And then once I'm happy with the colors, then I run the whole edition. So in this case, it's 7. Okay.
Sure. And hey, let me ask you this, Ouida.
Yeah.
How do you do the handwriting around it? You don't carve that.
I actually use a nice graphite pencil.
You do.
Yes.
Okay. That is your, okay.
Yeah.
So at the end, you handwrite around each one.
Yes, and that's a tricky deal too. So in this case, it's one verse, and it says, out on the plains down near Santa Fe, I met a cowgirl riding the range one day. And as she jogged along, I heard her singing a most peculiar cowgirl song. So that's taken from the actual song of Cow Cow Boogie. But I genderfied it with the cowgirl.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
all right,
I love it.
So I have another one based on a song that I'd like to show you. This one's called The Singing Cowgirl. The inspiration here is the Gene Autry song, I'm Back in the Saddle Again. And in this case, it's a cowgirl. I decided this was a singing cowgirl instead of a singing cowboy, but it is a nod to Gene Autry. And this is an edition of 9, so I have quite several of these still. And she's got the bass clef on her bodice, if you see that little clef thing all over. And she's got a polka dot scarf and guitars on her cuffs. And then she's got musical notation on her upper sleeves. And then the text in the background is done in an acrylic pen, and it is a repetition of I'm back in the saddle again, out where a friend is a friend. So that's that one.
Beautiful. Hey, Ouida,
Yeah.
Tell us why these shirts and clothing became a focus of your work.
Well, actually, I have a background in clothing design. I was a fashion designer in my 30s, and I've always gravitated towards uh, the garment as being uh, meaningful. You know, more than just uh, clothing. It speaks. It has content. So psychological content. So having been able to sketch garments for years and years, I just found it really easy to go ahead and translate that to paper.
Yeah.
But because of my interest in feminism, I decided to make these women like superheroes and have these garments being, you know, bigger than life.
Nice. So I think you were about to talk to us about Rattlesnake Kate.
Yes, I was.
Okay, talk to us about Rattlesnake Kate.
Okay, she's my latest. In fact, when I moved to Colorado, I moved to Denver first. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do Rattlesnake Kate. She's the one. So Rattlesnake Kate was a real person. And she lived in Greeley. And she is now a folk heroine. She was in the late 19th and early 20th century. She lived up in Greeley. She was a cowgirl. She had 6 husbands. She had several kids. And for years, she worked as a taxidermist, or with a she wasn't a taxidermist, she was a taxidermist assistant. And living out in Greeley, one day with her little boy on the saddle with her on the horse, she stumbled upon a nest of rattlesnakes, and there was over 100 of them. And the horse was frightened. She got down off the horse with her pistol and shot every one that she could, and then grabbed a board and started hammering them. She ended up killing 100 snakes. And so because of her taxidermy background, I think it's so funny, but at the same time, it's beautiful. She took them and she skinned them and made a dress out of them. And she made a necklace out of the rattlers. And she made a little headband, and she covered a pair of shoes with snake skins. And the Greeley paper came out to her little ranch and took photographs of her. So I do have photos if we want to share those with somebody. I don't have them with me right here, but I can share them online. So there's actually pictures of her in this snakeskin dress. And so because she was bigger than life, I decided to give her commemorate her dress with this woodcut print.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And you know, just FYI for anybody out there listening, or and even the artists, History Colorado has a podcast, Lost Highways, and they have an episode on Rattlesnake Kate. So if you want to learn more about Rattlesnake Kate, give that a listen. So how many passes through the press is the dress for Rattlesnake Kate?
Okay. It is, you know, I could pull one off the shelf. Would you rather see it on the wall? Because I've got it framed.
Just stay there. I think just stay there, and then maybe we'll come back and you can pull.
Okay. In this case, I keep a little book so that I can remember all this stuff, but I think I went 23 passes on this one. It took quite a while. And the reason is that not only was it the dress and the little necklace, but also I decided to put these 2 curvilinear snakes on each side. So the dress is actually flanked by these 2 rattlesnakes. The snakes are a silver ink, and then their tails are a gold ink. So they have a little blingy quality to them.
And these are all on Japanese paper?
Yes. It's called Okawara. It is a wonderful sturdy paper. You know, Japanese paper has fibers that all meld together rather than being, you know, manufactured. It's actually done in a kind of a more artisanal way. And so this paper holds up through all the press passes, and that's why I use it. It's real sturdy.
Oh yeah, that's interesting, because it does have that, when you get to feel it, it has that wonderful feel to it that it feels very light, but then it's just such a sturdy fibrous.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's good
That's-
stuff. It's called
that's-
Okawara.
Okawara. Nice, wonderful. Well, thanks, Ouida. We'll get back to you.
Okay.
And maybe if you want to pull out a rattlesnake Kate, and then we can kind
Okay.
of look at that in a little
I'll
bit,
go
that'd be
find one.
great. Okay, Patty, now we're back in the studio.
Hi.
Yeah, so let's talk about the works that you have, that and I'm guessing that eagle behind you, is that what you would call the maquette for the large?
That's exactly it. It was the maquette. I did that about, I think, 5 or 6 years before I did the enlargement. And this is Temujin. As you can see, it's on basically wind. I always work from abstract and build my design first, and then incorporate whatever animal, bird, insect that I'm going to on top of that abstract.
Nice. And what does the title mean?
I got that from National Geographic. Temujin was Genghis Khan's given name. And so far I've found 2 different meanings for it. One was Rider of the Heavens, and that was the first one that I got. And I thought, yeah, that's perfect. And the second one was Iron Fist. So, and I thought, yeah, that's true too, because, they hit you with an iron fist. But when I was working with raptors, to have an eagle on your arm and to feel the strength, they have 1,500 psi in their grip. So
wow.
yeah, if they want to, they can hurt you bad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Whether you have the leather glove on or not, I would
Next
guess.
one. I'm sorry?
Whether you have the leather glove on or not, I would guess.
Yes. Yeah. And with the eagles, you actually wear 2. You wear your glove and then a sheath over it.
Wow.
So you
And how
usually
just
have
heavy
that's
are they on your, how heavy are they on your arm?
they weigh about 7 pounds. So it's not that it's like a gallon of milk.
Yeah.
It's not that horrible, but when you're standing there holding a gallon of milk for a long time, yeah, it gets a little heavy.
Yeah. So before you move on to the next piece, let me ask you, how do you decide to make something a monumental piece? And how does that process work? How does it become from your maquette size to monumental?
There's a lot of ways to do it, but I do it old school. I do it on a graph. I start out with 1-inch squares underneath of it and a plumb bob, and I measure. I do it all mathematically, which is horrible for me. I'm so bad at math. So I have to triple check all of my math totally. But the big thing about that is you also have to use your eye, because if there's something that's a quarter of an off the small one, and you're making it 5 times bigger for the big one, then it's 1¼ inches off, and that makes it a lot more noticeable. So you have to use your eye as you're doing it to make sure that everything is scaling up right. And sometimes you have to change it enough so that what you see here reads better in the larger form. For this one, the larger form seemed to overpower the support. So I actually made the support taller so that the spatial recognition would be better. It
Interesting.
worked better together.
So then what was it about that piece that felt like it needed to be monumental? Patty?
you know, there are just some things that yes,
No, no, I just
there
didn't.
are just some things. Yeah, I think some pieces just speak to me and decide for me that they should be bigger. I've always worked on spec. Sometimes I'll work for commission, but for the most part, I work for what I want to see. So luckily, I said, I want to make this big. And I just get out all my welding tools and put an armature together to support the clay, and I just go from there. This is my playground.
So when you do it, so when you create your armature, so maybe kind of explain that basically you are creating just this form, and then you're putting clay wax. What are you putting on top to mold out your piece?
First, I have to build, of course, the armature of metal, something sturdy that's going to be able to hold probably 1,000 pounds. And with that, usually within about 2 to 3 inches. And I build it out of, it's called hardware cloth. And it's just a metal mesh, but with quarter to probably 1/4-inch squares, so that when I do put the clay on, it has a tooth to hold to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then I build each feather.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And how
It's
many
fun.
pounds of clay did you say?
I think this one took about 800 pounds. I've had ones that were 1,200 pounds. So I have about 2,000 pounds of clay at my disposal.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about the other two pieces.
The next piece is Blanche. Blanche is, do you remember the Bickersons? John and Blanche, the Bickersons. It was an old radio show, and they used to just bicker. Well, anyway, she is half of that. And I also do a lot of urban interface pieces where the industrial areas. So you see the ironworks and stuff like that. Well, this is a porch. This is actually my porch. So,
Yeah.
so you'll see, crows come and perch on your porch railing. And so they interface with us, and we're in their space, but they're coming to visit us too.
Yeah, I like that. And I like how you put together the linear shapes with this organic motion of the bird too.
I do like to use geometrics when I'm doing the urban interface, just to express it in almost a harder line and put it out. This is what I'm trying to say. This is the industrial part of the city, or your home, whatever.
Right. I like it. Okay, and then the third piece here.
This is the Artful Dodger. He's a fox, a Reynard, if you will. As I told you before, I usually work from abstract back. And this time I didn't want to unabstract it. I didn't want to tighten it up and put it into a representational or a realism that normally I would. Because of the strong lines that it evoked.
Yeah. And you give it a
Uh-oh.
sense of whimsy too by keeping it with more of a linear thing. Then it's more about the shape and the motion instead of the animal. I like that. And then what about the patinas?
I also gave this a patina like you would see out in the forest. It's just dappled sunlight, and you would just see the leaves, and maybe you just catch a glimpse of your fox as he's going through the leaves.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Nice. Thank you, Patty. Okay, I'm going to go back to Ouida and we'll see Rattlesnake Kate. Hey, people who are out there joining us, feel free to ask questions on the chat, and I will. I'll forward them on. I'll ask our artists too. So let me know if you guys have questions as well. So, Ouida, let me go back to you, and if you'd unmute.
I brought this over just for fun because I had it on the other side of the room. This is the end result of a reduction woodcut that I did. It's not going to be in the show, but it just gives you an idea of how pretty ruined it is. I could not print this anymore. It would be abstract. It wouldn't be the dress that it was originally. And that's because it went through the press so many times and got carved away so many times. I thought that might be part of our little tutorial.
Rattlesnake Kate.
Okay, so I've got one framed, which came out beautiful. It's over there, and it's available, but the rest of them are unframed. And again, this is an edition of 9, and it's large. It's 24 by 32, so it's a good long print. There's the snakes. There's the necklace of rattlers. And the snakes are, topsy-turvy. One's up and one's down.
And as we're looking at it, hang on right there, Ouida. Hold on right there. Okay. As we're looking at it, I just really want to point out that this, just to me, this is so incredible. Look at how the color moves from the bodice down and changes as it goes down her skirt. Like those are passes through the press to get that integration of color moving that way. I just think it's phenomenal. And I love knowing how many passes these went through the press, because it's just so incredible when you see, and especially getting to see it out from under the frame. You get to see all the little strokes and the little lines and the things that are carved into those plates every time, or the wood every time it comes through. It's just amazing.
Thank you.
The work in that. Incredible.
At the bottom there, you can see the signature.
Wow. Oh, for your passes. Talk about the signature.
Well, in this case, there's no text around it. The story speaks for itself, but always I sign them and number them. So in this case, I usually tuck it into the bottom somewhere. Let me see, does that show up? Can you see it?
Yep, I see it.
Okay.
So just a little print knowledge out there. And I love telling people about this because, especially if you're a new collector, print work, hand-pulled print work is such a great thing to get a hold of. Like just what we've talked about, Ouida, with your work and how many passes and how labor intensive, like you're actually physically carving a block and reducing that block with your carving. So if you are out and about and you see a piece under glass, look for the artist signature, look for a number over a number, and something else to really look for once your eye is trained. Like I will turn a piece in a frame to its side, and you can look across the surface of that paper and you can see the ink laid down on it. It's really subtle, but once you train your eye, you can see it. And then you can start to tell the difference between something that is mechanically printed versus something that's hand pulled and hand worked by an artist. Because there are a lot of prints out there that are mechanical prints that have numbers, they're limited editions, but the real value out there, the collectability comes in what Ouida is doing, Liam Lockridge, a number of our fine printmakers. These are done by hand, with handwork on top of them in a lot of cases. So if you ever have questions about that, just pose those with the Coors Western Art, and I'd be happy to give you some more information about it, because it's really, it's such an old art form. And certainly woodblock reduction is an art form that is so intricate and so difficult, that there aren't a lot of artists doing it, really. Hey, so we had a question come in. Where did you all study? Where did you all learn your craft? And Ouida, since we're on you,
Yeah,
where did you learn this?
I went to the Kansas City Art Institute for my BFA. I'm a painter also. I do a lot of painting. So my BFA was in painting, but they made me take a 1-semester printmaking class. And I said, do I have to? And they said, yes, you do.
And look
And
what happened.
I just fell in love with it.
Nice. Hey, Michael, how about you?
Let's see. I studied at 2 universities here in Montana, music. I got a master's degree in
Wow.
performance and composition.
Nice.
I owned and operated 2 recording studios professionally for almost 30 years. One of my clients in 2002 canceled for a recording. It was a songwriter out of Missoula. She went to Nashville to produce her record. Producer said, yeah, you better come down here. We got some really good stuff. So, and it was really great for her, but it left me 2 months of time in January. So I started drawing, and within a week, my 2 daughters, they were 4 and 6 at the time, they were bringing me little trinkets, and I was drawing these little still lives. One thing led to another. Within 6 months, I had sold my studio and was bound and determined to do this full time since that time. So I haven't been doing it long. I'm primarily self-taught, and I've taken some workshops over the years, but I haven't studied art formally at a school. If I had to do it again, I would love to do it, but I'm a production artist now, and so there's not a lot of time for that.
So what did you play? I know everybody's wondering that.
It was drums, percussion, trombone, and some guitar. And I played all over the United States for off and on for over 25 years, and wrote a lot of music, produced a lot of records, was nominated for a Grammy, one that I worked on. It wasn't my project I was facilitating in my studio. Got to work with some really, really good people from all over the Western United States. And so performed that. Now I'm teaching myself mandolin because I can take it with me, and I can be in a hotel room or whatever and just play for my own enjoyment, and I don't have to worry about a wedding or a party or, God forbid, another bar. I used to play.
Okay. You know what? Now I'm seeing your work in another new light. Like I'm seeing it as compositions, musical compositions, and like just how I've always sort of felt this about your work, that it is it has this harmonious feel to it, but the colors you're working with are not that easy to harmonize, because you're adding in such bright poppy colors. You know, it has this there's a level of difficulty to it, and now this sort of makes sense as well, that if you're self-taught, then you probably jump into it without thinking about how crazy hard it would be.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not an intellectual process, although working with the neon now, it is, it's technically, I have to think technically a lot because it has to come out
Yeah.
at a certain size, at a certain way, and a certain thing. So I like that. I enjoy that process a lot. And I get to work with my hands in a different way too. I used to restore old cars and show them. And so I've had a background in mechanics with building motors and painting cars and that kind of thing. Maybe all the time I spent, I don't know, playing in bars. There's a lot of neon around. I don't know. Kind of
Yeah,
burned my eyes.
it's like it's permanently there on your brain. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, oh wow, I love it. And Patty, I think your story is just so fascinating too about how you got into sculpture, because it wasn't through art school either. It was kind of by accident, right?
Yeah, yeah. I always grew up, of course, probably all of us did, drawing and painting and, making a little side money, doing whatever you could artistically. And then I was working for the airlines and took up wood carving as basically therapy. Because it's kind of a high stress job. And then I found that I really loved being in that space where you start something and 5 hours later you look up at the clock and go, wow, I can't believe that much time went by. And that's where I decided I wanted to live. And I quit my real job and took up full-time wood carving. And then I decided I wanted to carve stone, and I took a symposium with Jerry Balsiar in marble. If you ever have heard of that. It started in 1989. I took the first marble, and I told Jerry at the time, if you ever need an apprentice, please call me. And that was in July, I believe. And he called me New Year's Day of that next year, and told me that he would like me to be his apprentice. And
Nice.
I thought, what a wonderful opportunity, because to be an apprentice, you basically learn absolutely everything that teacher teaches you. And he was such a generous teacher. And I spent, 40, 50 hours a week for 2 years. And you can't buy that kind of an education. You really can't.
Yeah. Wow. Wonderful.
Very, he taught me everything I know about bronze and marble.
Wow.
Just very lucky, very lucky.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, well, as we are rounding the corner home on our first Inside the Artist Studio, artists, do you have questions for each other? Any?
I
do.
have a question for Michael. Why are you moving to Alaska?
It's something that I've been there twice. Megan, my wife, she used to live there. Our kids are all grown, and I'm not getting any younger. Megan is a number of years younger than me, but we decided we'd really like to just check it out up there and just live. And I've got another couple opportunities up there for some other art projects. So I need to be there.
Well, I think that's great.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know how long we'll be there, but we're going to go for a while, and then if we come back, we'll come back. So, yeah. Patty,
So
go ahead.
So what I didn't mention, for those of you who missed it, Michael and his wife Megan are moving to Alaska, and they were supposed to be there by now, but with COVID restrictions, they're going to have to hold off for a little while longer and stay in Montana. So, yeah, really, and it's a change of scenery, right?
Yeah.
Just take it out. So, Michael, you have a question?
I do, yes, for Patty. Thank you, Ouida, for that question. But I have one for Patty. You said you started carving marble. Marble, was that from Marble, Colorado?
That's exactly where Marble is held. It's
Okay.
marble carving in Marble, Colorado.
Oh,
And
you went there to carve.
right, right. And
Oh,
I have a bunch of marble from Marble, Colorado.
sure. Okay. Just wanted to check that out. Megan and I stopped through there last summer and got a piece for her pastry that she uses for rolling pastry out. And we went there. There's the first time there. My uncle said, you got to go there and just see it. And so
So
we
was
did.
it made out of a core sample?
Yes. Yeah. So I just had to ask. I heard the name, so I just thought I would ask. That's a terrific place. That's amazing.
It really is.
And that,
I'd like to know what both of you are working on next. What's your next project?
Ouida?
Well, I'll go ahead. Do you want me to? My next project is these linoleum. Let me show you. I got it right here. These are women nudes, and they're women of color. And this is a linoleum block, and I've actually, it's a nod to Manet. If you guys know Manet's painting, the Déjeuner. So I'm doing a series of these nude black lino figures with all kinds of collage work attached to, involved in the final. It's like a mixed media issue.
Oh,
That's what
wow. I'm working on some more of these.
Oh, wow.
This is one of my neon guys, and
Yeah.
it's that's actual light. It's about 7 feet tall. These are very large pieces as well. So I've got a solo show coming up for July, and we want a whole show of these. So I'm going to be really busy between now.
Where will that be?
It'll be here at Montana Trails in Montana, or here in Bozeman. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway, I'll be having some for next year at Coors. We get this whole thing straightened out with the COVIDs and everything.
well,
How-
I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all very much for being our first, being our guinea pigs. This has been quite a process, and I really appreciate you all being willing to open up your studios like you have. I have almost every single artist in the Coors show this year on a Zoom call, so we're very excited about that. The show is the work is filtering onto our website, CoorsWesternArt.com. So you can see it there. Hopefully we'll have everything uploaded in the next week or two. Still waiting for some artists to send their work to us. But we'll have that then. The show is going to be for sale on hand bid. When you go to our website, you'll get all this information, and you can sign up for hand bid that way. The bidding will start. It's going to be basically a silent auction. The bidding will start on December 18th. And then it'll all culminate on January 5th, which would have been our red carpet reception evening. So we'll have a little program on January 5th, and that'll be the final round of bidding. So just jump on our website and check it out. And I'll remind everybody all the time while we're doing these. And if you're listening and you have any questions, go through the website and send those to us, and I can ask the artist and answer those in the next session for you or whatever we need. So anyway, Michael, Ouida, Patti, thank you.
It was fun.
This was great. This was really great. I
Really.
appreciate it, y'all. Take care. And we're recording these, so you can go to our website and you can find the recording too. So Thanks all. Take care.